Hey, Sean, good afternoon.
Hey,
Hey, can you give us an injury update, please, on Coleman Shelton and anybody else who came out of the game?
yeah, so Coleman got a high ankle sprain. It'll probably be 4 to 6 weeks. And Jordan Fuller strained his hamstring, and he'll probably be out for 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. On kind of a related note, Matthew has been sacked 16 times. He's on pace to get sacked more than twice as many times as he was last year. He's been sacked a lot in his career. You have not traditionally, your quarterback has not been sacked a lot during your coaching career. How much of that is Matthew? How much of that is play calling? How much of that is just the situation you're at with your depth on the interior offensive line at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, Greg, through 4 games, 14 of those occurred in 2 of those games. The first game was a challenge, and then yesterday, there was a couple where they did a good job winning on a 5-man rush, sometimes even on a 4-man rush when we got into kind of known passing. And then, like I had mentioned, a couple of those were just mental errors that are uncharacteristic for our players to make. We want to try to minimize the amount of times that our quarterback's getting hit. And so the way that both those games have kind of unfolded, that is not ideal. That is something that we take a lot of pride in, and we've got to be able to clean it up. But it's always, it's always a team sport. There's a lot of things that, I feel very responsible for. And then each one of those 16 has a kind of a separate conversation to be had, but none of which is okay to have that many through 4 games. And so always starts with, some of the things that I've got to do better job for our players, and then collectively being able to execute better.
Thanks.
Gilbert.
Yeah, Sean, with Coleman being out, probably a good time to ask about Brian Allen. Any update on him? Is he close to coming back?
He is. We're taking it a day at a time with him. He is making good progress, whether that's this week or the following week. We're kind of, keeping all options open and available, Gilberto. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. But, I thought Jeremiah Colonna, given the circumstances, did a really commendable job coming in, gutting it out and handling it against an excellent defense in a way that, really proud of him.
And Sean, with the pick six of Ufanga, I think he mentioned yesterday that the screenplays were a little predictable, and that's why he decided to jump the route. Did you kind of notice that, or do you get a sense it was a little too predictable? How would you assess the play calling yesterday?
Yeah, that was a situation we didn't want to run that play versus that particular look. Like I had mentioned, that was a similar thing that kind of had occurred the year before, and starts with us getting it communicated. And definitely it was a good play by him, and that wasn't the ideal play versus that particular defense that they had on right there.
And one more for me, Sean. I know yesterday you mentioned for spreading the ball around, it's been a struggle overall, but why particularly with Allen Robinson has that not been working out through 4 games?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's just kind of been a struggle overall. There's been a lot of different things. Being able to get receivers the ball is such a product of the offense as a whole. And we're at our best when everybody's getting involved. And you look at, the 2 games that we've been able to kind of stay on schedule, it's been getting different guys involved. And obviously Cooper's a huge part of it, but whether it be Allen or any of the other eligibles, those are things that we're continuing to work towards. And, we got a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of time, but we've got to be better for sure.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Stu.
Hey, Sean, just wanted to check in on Daniel Hardy. Is there a chance that 21-day clock as far as his return starts this week, or is there still a ways to go?
I haven't had that dialogue. I think he's making good progress, but we haven't talked about that yet, Stu.
And then David Edwards, how's he feeling if you've had the chance to talk to him?
He's doing good. He's making good progress. He is in the protocol, but hopefully we're keeping our fingers crossed that he'll be able to get out of that and be available this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, in terms of the 49ers maybe coming into this game being a team that could rush 4 well, and then them switching it up a little bit and blitzing and having some success there, are you getting enough from guys who are expected to pass pro in those situations?
Yeah, I think it's, there was a couple things that, we've got to be on the screws with. And then there's a couple times where, they're one of the best defenses in the league, and if not the best. And, the way that they had some stunts going, that they were able to get edges on us. And so you give them their credit. There's a lot of moving parts, like I said, none of which are an excuse, but, our guys battled, they're competing, as well as they can. And, we've got to do better, and I got to do a better job. And that's, that what we're going to continue to work towards, and not make any excuses about, the different things that we're working through.
This offense has changed a lot and evolved a lot over the last several years, Sean, but at the foundation, you've always said the marriage of the run and the pass is one of the key pillars. Where is that disconnect happening right now, do you think?
I mean, I think you've seen it, kind of come to life in a couple games. And then two other ones, it really hasn't. And so each game is its own separate entity. Each play is its own separate entity. There were some opportunities where, we felt like we were able to get some good drives, and then we had one play that set us back, and you get behind the sticks against a great defense like that. It's challenging, but there's been, so many different moving parts, so many different things that we're continuing to try to piece together week in and week out. And that's our job. And that's what we've got to do a better job of, starting with me. And that's what we're working towards. But there's been, a lot of different things that have taken place. And I think we're trying to figure out that identity. But when we've been able to do that, Jordan, that means that we are efficient on those early downs. And when you're not, then you become more predictable and more one-dimensional. And that makes it a lot more difficult, particularly on our guys up front.
In terms of success rate on those downs, you guys are actually doing pretty well. It's like 6th in the NFL overall, not just, the two games that were big problems for you guys, just overall in general. So back to your point about mistakes and uncharacteristic like MAs, is that kind of been just the nature? You guys inflict sort of the self-inflicted stuff, or is it, do you think, characteristic of maybe a larger pattern that you're seeing that maybe we don't see on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see like what that stat is reflective of, because in some instances, are they still keeping that considerate when you're down 2 scores at the end of the game? And does a 5-yard completion count as being efficient on early downs when they're playing deep to short? And, that's not really giving you a chance to win the game. So I know this, when you're in those 1 possession games, or you're in the first half or through 3 quarters, being able to do that sustained possession. And we did sustain possession last night. It's the big theme was a couple of those, they end up having the defensive score. You get a couple turnovers, but it's really coming away with 3 instead of touchdowns in the red area. Whether it be something I've got to be better or overall execution. And, that's the beauty of football. There's so many different things that go into it to try to really be able to have a complete team game and come away with the result, that you're hunting up. And that's what's exciting about, on a short week, having an opportunity to respond and not dwell on it too much, but not minimize the things that need to be cleaned up. And there's been a lot of things that have taken place in a short amount of time through 4 weeks. And we've got to be better. And that's what our focus and concentration is on. And, and that's what we'll continue to strive to do.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Tim. You're on mute, Tim.
Sorry about that, Coach. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Tim?
I'm driving, so forgive me. So you guys have another national spotlight game on Sunday against the Cowboys, and it's not been the start you wanted so far. What is it that you keep your message to the team to keep them encouraged after this 2-2 start?
I think it's just stay in the moment, understand that there's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of different things that have taken place through the first 4 games of the season. It hasn't all been bad, but it might not be up to the standards that we have. But I do want to continue to make sure that we're not letting the expectations get in the way for the enjoyment of being able to compete at the highest level that we're capable of, and let the chips fall where they may. And so a lot of different moving parts. Our guys understand that. And we're going to continue to battle, keep swinging, and see if we can improve, have a good week of preparation, and play better, with that time that we're allotted against the Cowboys on Sunday.
Are you encouraged that this thing is going to get going in the right direction?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's, all you can do is continue to battle. I believe in these players. I believe in these coaches, and I believe in, people that are resilient and can respond. And every single week is a new week. I want to start seeing some improvement. Some of the challenges have been the continuity, where we've had a lot of moving pieces on the offensive line, at the receiver position, particularly on the back end defensively. But like I said, none of which is an excuse, and nobody really cares. And so we've got to be able to keep it moving. Want to try to, be able to do what we can to try to stay healthier. Some of that is, just being able to be, fortunate and lucky. And then if for whatever reason we are losing guys, then we've got to have the next guy ready to go and be able to step up in that player's absence.
Thanks, Coach.
Gary.
Hey, Sean, what are kind of your first impressions of the Cowboys coming in?
Yeah, I mean, a team that's riding a good streak. I think they've played really good complementary football. Obviously, when you look at them defensively, they've got excellent players coming off the edge. I think they're really aggressive on all three levels. They've got great speed. I think Coach Quinn does a great job mixing it up. And then offensively, I've been really impressed. I got tremendous respect for Dak Prescott and what he's been able to do. And then obviously Cooper Rush stepping in, being able to get both those backs going. You've seen CeeDee Lamb make a lot of plays. I think Kellen has done an excellent job being able to mix it up and kind of play to their strengths. And then Bones always does a great job on special teams. So this is a really good football team that's got a 3-game win streak, and we got to be ready to go.
And just in terms of the way your schedule is set up this year, the 49ers, I know you've got Dallas and Carolina and the bye, but you're going to see the 49ers before the end of the month again. Do you have a preference? Like, would you rather see a team you're playing twice with more, weeks between it, or do you like a relatively quick turnaround?
It's hard to say. I mean, because, we don't really have an option in that. So we see them in that short amount of time. So that's what it is. And so, for us, what's going to be going on at that point, you never know. I mean, there's been so many moving parts, especially this year for our team and, for a lot of teams. And so I think what the key thing is not getting too far ahead of ourselves, figuring out how do we respond the right way from yesterday? How do we have a good week? And then how do we try to get our third win on Sunday? And that's really where my sole focus and concentration is. Whether we play guys in a short amount of time, it was kind of similar to that last year. If you just look at the times between, our week 18 game and when we played them in the NFC Championship, and same thing with Arizona and when we played them in the wild card round. So there's been a lot of, sometimes with division opponents, it can shake out like that, and schedule makers make that. We got to be able to play the schedule they give us.
And then finally, what went into the decision not to have Tutu Atwell active yesterday?
Really just, for the overall, teams and just kind of the overall approach could be very different this week. And, we've had more moving parts than we've ever had since I've been here and going, to the early parts of the season. And so that's why it was really just exclusive to yesterday, not anything that Tutu didn't do. And, we'll see what that means for his status this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll wrap up with Sarah and Jim.
John, I don't know if you saw it happen, but what's going through your mind when either you saw or heard that Bobby Wagner tackled the fan during the game?
Yeah, I heard the reaction, because I had seen those guys kind of running out onto the field, and Bobby's got a way of just solving problems. That's what he does.
He told us that one thing, can be concerning because he doesn't know if the fan has something in their pocket or that this fan could be a danger. Do you get concerned when you see a fan get close to your guys around the field?
Yeah. I guess I never had thought about it like that, because of some of the security measures people have to take when they're getting into the stadium, but you never know. It's a great point by Bobby, and probably something that I will think of, now that you kind of put that thought in my head.
Jim.
Hey, Sean, it is early. You are 2-2. Everybody in the division's 2-2. Is there a point, though, where you kind of start monitoring the mood of the team and the mood of various players to make sure that guys don't get down before they really can afford to?
Yeah, I think we've got mentally tough guys, Jim. But yeah, that's part of your job as a coach all the time is to make sure you have a good temperature and pulse for the group. Our guys have high standards. There's been a lot of good things that have gone on the last couple of years. And I do think it's a fine line between having such high standards that it takes away your ability to compete and enjoy it, the way that, allows you to play at your best, while also acknowledging the different circumstances, none of which, like I've said to you, will ever be an excuse. And so I think every game is a new game. You try to educate the guys on what's occurred, what's the plan of attack moving forward. And I do think, it does help when you have some more continuity. Like I said, I'm not sitting here going to make excuses for why we have or haven't done the things that are in alignment with maybe the expectations we have, but there's a lot of football to be played. The story isn't written yet. We do have a stay in how that story is written, but to make sure that you're continuing to keep the spirits up and not let some of the expectations get in the way of enjoying and competing to the highest level through the first, quarter or 4 games is definitely something that you want to be mindful of. But I've got a good sense for this team. We've got great mental makeup, and we've just got to continue to battle and stay in the moment.
Is there a point though where you remind them, hey, we got through November last year and look how it turned out?
I think if it's necessary, you always draw on previous experiences to create perspective. That's absolutely something that we're mindful of and that I try to be mindful of. But if it's necessary and if it comes up kind of authentically, we'll do that. But it's not something that's ever kind of premeditated or predetermined on my end.
Okay, thank
Hey,
you.
Coach. We got Caleb raise her hand last minute.
Okay.
Sorry, Sean. Thanks for being here. Just wanted to ask you, when it came to Cam Akers, I know you kind of raised the level of expectations for him in terms of playing with a higher sense of urgency. When you see, Cooper and Tyler get a number of targets, like 14 plus, when you think of Allen, do you have the same standards and expectations? Like, is there something that you look at him and say, we need to raise the level of expectations for you? Or is that more play calling to get him more touches?
Yeah, probably the latter a little bit, Kayla. There's certain different things, coverage based and, what the defense is playing that dictates and determines, where a lot of the balls end up going. Tyler and Coop ended up getting a large amount of targets, and, Cooper's always going to be a guy that is, going to try to, you want to make sure that you're cognizant of getting him involved while also spreading it around. So I think it's more a product of some of the things that they were doing, but, there's, like we said, we've got to do a better job of spreading it around. And I think it's a lot easier when we're able to stay kind of efficient in some better down and distances or better situations collectively throughout the game for that to be able to unfold in a way that's reflective of what we ideally want to be.
And then just lastly, with Cam Akers, what have you seen since you've had that conversation with him? How have you seen his progress?
Yeah, I've liked the way that he's responded. The opportunities were a little bit more minimized yesterday for a lot of different reasons, but I thought he did a really good job against Arizona, had some good runs that are in alignment with the kind of guy that we expect. And there'll always be things that we can clean up, but I've been pleased with Cam. It all goes back to opportunities, and there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's not exclusively what that player can control. That's why football is the greatest team sport, and we've all got to be a little bit better, and it starts with me.